Right, right. So we got to hear that, Casey. Oh. Yeah, we're missing Mitchell, I think his name. Well, he got 5 more minutes. So.
Yep. Because I didn't get logged in. I always forget. I forgot to charge up my keyboard again, and then I had to remember. I didn't do that today.
Yeah, I got mine charged up. They didn't get my 55, but it lasts a long time. I got enough on mine, though.
Yeah.
Okay. As long as you have a plan.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Good evening. Welcome to the City of Douglasville Planning Commission meeting. I am Francisco Artley, the chairman of the Planning Commission. The other members of the Planning Commission are Natalie Fegan, Keith Burnett, Nathan Zachary, Joy Bates, Ralph Benton, and Mark Van. The staff members are Lynn Woodward, staff attorney, Ryan Anderson, zoning administrator, Ebony Jefferson, code compliance manager, and Vicki Dobbs, administrative assistant. There are a few protocol items I need to make you aware of before we start the meeting. Please listen closely on how tonight's meeting will be conducted. Keep your comments and presentation on a professional level, dealing with the facts that are important for this commission to make its decision. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. You will receive a warning from the chair if you deviate from this requirement. A second deviation will result in a request for you to leave the meeting and the premises for the evening. Refrain from any applause or comments from the audience. Only one person will be talking at a time, and all comments will be made at the podium after the speaker has been recognized by the chair. Please direct all comments to the chair and the commission, not to the audience or the staff. Please do not applaud or react to speakers, speak from the audience, cheer, carry on a conversation with others in the audience, or disrupt the order of this meeting in any way. Be aware that these hearings are not a debate or an opportunity to ask questions which must be answered by any individual tonight, but are merely an opportunity to present information to this commission. Other than the applicant, no person may speak more than once. The applicant may reserve part of their speaking time as a rebuttal and may speak next and last and may use the entire 20 minutes allotted for the pro side of the application. Other than the applicant, no person may speak longer than 5 minutes. If you have a pager, cell phone, or any other electronic device, I ask that you either power them off or put them in silent mode. If anyone wishes to speak tonight, please fill out a form available on the table up front and hand it to the staff before approaching the podium. After each case is called, we will hear next from the zoning administrator, and then we will hear from the applicant or the representative about what their plans are for the property, along with any other relevant information they wish to present. The commission members will be free to ask questions at any time before the vote on a project. Following the applicant, anyone who wishes to speak for or against the project or just ask questions will have an opportunity to do so. The city ordinance restricts each side to a maximum of 20 minutes, or time may be waived at the discretion of the presiding official. If questions are raised, we may ask the applicant to speak again. Afterward, we will call for a motion and a second, have any necessary discussion, and if the matter is not tabled, we will vote to recommend approval or denial of this application. This commission is only a recommending body. The item will be heard by mayor and council whether we approve or deny. Unless tabled, these items will be heard by the city's mayor and council at their legislative meeting on Thursday, October 14th, and then voted upon by them at their meeting on the following Monday, October 18th. Please, I ask that after each item is heard and a vote has been taken, to please remain silent. If you decide to leave, please quietly do so, but do not start talking to other people during this meeting, because we have other items on the agenda and we have other business to conduct. The first item is to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any questions or comments about the last meeting? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion that the minutes be approved.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? The minutes are approved from our last meeting. All right. The first case is item 21-473. Hold a public hearing and consider a request for a change in zoning from R2 Single Family Residential District to PUD Planned Unit Development District for 83.3 acres at the northeast intersection of Presley Mill Road and Timber Ridge Drive and land lot 54, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 2. Application by the Revive Land Group with Neville Allison, managing partner. Staff will now present the item.
This rezoning will facilitate the development of a new 238-unit single-family residential community consisting of 42-foot, 50-foot, and 60-foot wide single-family detached residences. The proposed overall site density for the 83-acre tract is approximately 2.83 units per acre. The site is designed so that the largest lots are located along the periphery of the site, closest to adjoining lot lines, and the smallest lots are located toward the center of the site. The proposed development is consistent with the purpose and intent of the UDO. The city's UDO states that the intent of the PUD zoning designation is to encourage the best possible site plans and building arrangements on a unified plan of development, rather than a lot-by-lot regulation. That is precisely what the developer accomplished with this proposal. The proposed amendment introduces a development into an area that is economically stable and thriving. The site plan shows 238 single-family residences of various sizes and lot dimensions, establishing a density that will complement the immediate area. The proposed project will inject new residents with possible disposable income to maintain the standards of the immediate area and provide economic benefits to businesses located within the city limits. Yes, the proposed development furthers the intent of the comprehensive plan. The proposed use is consistent with the comprehensive future land use designation for Regional Activity Center. PUD is a recommended land use under the Regional Activity Center character area. The PUD zone replaced the former DCD zoning classification in the most recent UDO update. The surrounding land uses include to the north and northeast 2 single-family detached residential developments that are zoned PUD. West of the subject property across Timber Ridge Road is a large, currently undeveloped parcel zone R2, planned for a multi-family, single-family housing development. South and west of the subject property is Brighton Academy, a charter school, and Benton House, a senior living development. Also, south of the site is a small residential single-family detached development. The proposed project is congruent with one of the goals of the city's comprehensive plan Regional Activity Center character area, and that is to provide for varying densities of residential development. This development meets that goal by providing 2 or more different densities of single-family residential living for the surrounding community. The proposed development does address new or changing conditions to properly implement the most recent comprehensive plan. The area is designated as Regional Activity Center, and the proposed development is consistent with the land use designation. One of the main goals of the Regional Activity Center character area is to provide for areas that can support a high intensity of development, which serves a regional market. The best and highest use of the subject property would be for a PUD. The property lacks the necessary elements for a successful R2 single-family residential development due to the economic viability issues caused by the environmental and topographical issues associated with the subject property. A low-density residential development in close proximity to other single-family residential developments is both ideal and practical from a planning standpoint. Staff recommendation to the Planning Commission is approval.
Will the applicant come forward and state their name and address for the record? Tell us what you intend to do on this property.
Kenneth Wood, 350 Research Court, Peachtree Corners, Georgia. So Somerset at Timber Ridge, I know we have run through this, but I'll run through it in full. Let me make sure I've got this working. Okay, perfect. So looking at the site location map and walking through, this is an outside view. Obviously, you can see the mall to the west. Our location is just to the northeast of there, off Presley Mill and Timber Ridge. It's 83 undeveloped acres that currently sit at this location. As you can see, the sites that surround it, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that, about why we chose the site. And so just looking at the aerial is one of the reasons. We're surrounded by other similar developments, other similar PUDs, different housing types. And in fitting this, what we learned over the last couple of years is what the site wanted to be. And so a couple of years ago, we moved forward with a site plan that we'll go over and learned, what the neighborhood was looking for and what changes we needed to make as we move forward with it. And I'll walk you guys through that process. So our process started way back in April, even before that in March, of planning the site. And then as we started getting closer to a site plan, we started having community meetings in June. We had 2 different community meetings at that time. We also ended up having more dates with staff and council meetings. And then here recently, as soon as last week, October 5th, as we're running back through the process, we had an additional community meeting as well. And we've made changes since that meeting that we've resubmitted to staff, and we can walk you guys through those. This is the future land use and designation map, and we're seeking your approval tonight for all the reasons that staff outlined in the proposal. Is that what we're proposing is right in line with all of the city's initiatives and maps that you guys have and you guys have put forth. And what we're trying to do is learn from mistakes in the past and bring forth a better plan today that we had. And so you can see the site as it sits there. This is within the Regional Activity Center. And so the densities for here go all the way up to very high densities. They go all the way up to, I believe, 16 units per acre. We're on the lowest end of this density, which we can be at 2.86 units per acre. And so you can see the other regional activity centers across from us that just got zoned for a higher intensity senior facility, as well as the ones that are just to our left. Those are upwards of 5 times more intense of our proposal. This is the current zoning map, and you can see all of the colors of the PUD surrounding us. We have just to the east, just to the south, and also to the southwest. Everything that's surrounding us is the same type of zonings. And this was the reason when we looked at it that we chose a PUD, was because it gave flexibility to save more trees, protect different resources, and allow smaller lots that are more maintenance-free in a lock-and-go lifestyle, and be able to put forth a plan that's really nice and we can actually be compatible with everything surrounding us. Going forth to the plan, so this is kind of a little bit of a history lesson of where we've been and what we learned. Is a couple of years ago, we brought forth a plan. It was a different developer. He had us look at doing senior apartments, attached townhomes, and only small lot cluster and crossing the creek. And so this was the plan at 396 units. It was close to 5 units per acre. And so what we learned in going through that entire process was that the neighborhood was very much against the attached townhomes, very much against the senior apartments, and very much against only having the cluster where it was basically pushing right up against the creeks, crossing the creek and going to the other side where the gas line is, and then not having very good buffers throughout that area. And so that project did not go forward. And so as we came forward this year with our new project, this was our initial site plan. And so it's 260 all detached units, but we had the units a lot closer to the creeks. We had the units across the creek going just across the gas line, which you can do as we were looking at some of the different things. We did not have as larger buffers to the south and to the east. And we didn't have the units backed up away from the different sides as what we do currently. And so this plan is what we started the initial conversations with the communities on. And after we got input from the community, we since revised the plan to the current proposal, which it is today. But it also has a long list of conditions that we've developed over the last several months in response to the citizens, and even in response to what we heard last week. We've also brought forward some even new conditions from that meeting that we'll go over you as well. So this proposal is 238 units. That is 2.86 units per acre. And what we found through this process is that Some of the fear was just about the number of units. And what we tried to explain is that 238 sounds like a large amount of units, but it is a large tract of land. It's 83 acres. And so it is a large tract of land, but we're saving almost 40% of the tract of land. So only 60% is being developed on. And so that try to help put in context how the 83 acres feels. It's a really large tract of land that just happens to be an undeveloped tract of land within this area. And so what we've done with the site plan is we have turn lanes and decel lanes coming off of Presley Mill. On Presley Mill, we paid particular attention to all the comments that we've received, and we're going to match the fencing that you see up and down along there, and we'll go over what that condition says. We've moved all the lots back so that there is buffering from Presley Mill. All the buffering on the west side up against the senior facility. We have hardly any lots anywhere near Timber Ridge, and no lots all the way down Timber Ridge to the north part. We've removed all of the lots on the northern part of the property. We're not crossing any part of the creek. And on the current proposal, we use the PUD to really combine the track and make it tighter internally so that we're pulled back. We're not, even the back of our lots are not even touching the impervious buffer. We're actually another 50, 60, 70 feet in places away from the impervious buffer. So we have quite a distance back. The other thing that we've done with the plan is we have gone through and made sure to pay particular attention to stormwater management. We know downstream there's been a lot of stormwater issues that have popped up, and so we have over 2.5 acres slated to stormwater management, and that would be for water quality, what's called runoff reduction, which means that when it rains, that first 1 inch does not leave the site at all. And so the majority of the storms we get in Georgia, as you guys know, are those 1 inch and under, and so that would not discharge at all. And then the rest of the storms, we have plenty of capacity to basically ratchet that back so that we're not discharging very much at all, and then leaving that entire northern part and all the flood area on that central part completely alone as we go through. Looking at the maps, we tried to look at some nearby density comparisons, and this is where we have all the densities around us are higher than us. Some of them are a little bit higher, some of them are upwards of 5 times, and this is kind of a heat map of all the densities around us. The only one that's not higher than us is directly below us, but it was platted back in 2004, and it's still not at 50% built out, and I think that's kind of a sign of where the market is and what we're looking to do and making sure that we're doing the right products. This is kind of an intensity comparison. This is all either higher intensity or any type of commercial or office or a higher type of intensity. And you can see that we're nestled in the middle of this, which this is one of the reasons to show this slide, because this is what gets us excited, because we can place residents within such close proximity of all the different uses, within close proximity of schools, of retail uses, commercial uses, and office uses, so that we can limit the amount of road that people need to get on. This is our plan, and as we mentioned, these are kind of the comparisons. You see Gardens at Kensington at 33, those are 3.47, 1.5, that's the one just below us, the only one that's higher. Just across the interstate, that's one upwards of 8 units per acre, and then Slater Mill at 3.49. We're at 2.86 on our current proposal after all the comments that we have received. And then we put together this so that everybody can see where we're basically, what we did is we surrounded the outside of the site with our largest lots. So everywhere we back up against any exterior property line, we have our largest lots, and we have our smallest lots on the interior. And then we also have some of the other large lots up against the western side. Some things to really take note is our amenity area is over 1.5 acres. It'll have pickleball courts. It has a large pool, a clubhouse area where people can gather. It has walking trails, and we're also proposing walking trails throughout. And so a significant push toward amenities is why we think this is really going to set itself apart, because the amenity package is going to be very high end. This gives you an idea of some of the buffering that we've put in. This shows you how the lots stop, and then we have an additional 40 feet even before the property line to kind of give you an idea of the buffering that we put in on all the sides. And you can see on Presley Mill just how far away from the road our lots are, and that we'll be able to leave that alone. And so we put in the aerial so you could see the lots across, and then the lots we have so you can see the distance of how far we'll be set back. And then that fencing across the front will really give a lot of buffering. Now, this side shows just how much. You basically look at it and you can see that it's 55 to 60% of the site is what's to be developed. The rest of it is to be left undisturbed, alone in perpetuity. And so these are the proposed conditions. I read them out last time. I was going to read them in for the record. So we have worked on these for the past couple of months. The first one is the site plan is to be in general conformance based on final design. The second one goes over the mandatory HOA is to be set up. The third one is that we have a rental restriction we're putting on ourselves from the neighborhood that's a 5% max. The minimum square foot of the homes to be 1,800 square feet. The code is 1,400 square feet. We're putting a minimum that's 1,800 square feet, but our homes will go up over 3,000 square feet. Elevations are be cementitious material and brick, stone, hardy, stone, shake, hardy panels, and real stucco. No vinyl siding or synthetic stucco is allowed, and they're to be in general conformance with the elevations we've submitted, and we have submitted new elevations we'll go over. The frontage along Presley Mill will have a 6-foot-high fence that will consist of brick columns every 75 feet and black aluminum fencing for the entire frontage, and the colors are to match what you see up and down Presley Mill. Elevations shall include a 2-foot brick water table on the side elevations, all of the side elevations. This is a new condition that came out of the meeting last Tuesday night. And so we're going to include those on all of the elevations to make sure we're mixing up the sides as well. Elevations shall include decorative carriage-style garage doors. And so this is also a new condition we put in since the last Tuesday's meeting that's different than what you saw previously. And so that will make sure that all of our garage doors, since they are facing the street, are going to be that really nice kind of barn-style carriage garage door that you would see. The property would be developed the maximum of 238 single-family lots and the minimum of 57 to be 60s. That guarantees that those larger ones, there's going to be a minimum of that. The minimum lot size allowed is 4,200, 42 feet in width, but all the others are 50 and 60. All open space setbacks and lot dimensions are defined on the site plan. The community will be developed with a clubhouse-style building for the pool, a pool, and common area for residents. Sidewalks located along all internal streets on both sides, along all of Presley Mill, and on Timber Ridge South, but not north. And we talked about that was kind of an issue, and that's why we did not provide that to the north. 25-foot landscape replanted setback along the south and eastern border with the neighbors. The project is to coordinate with the City of Douglasville Public Works Department on anything related to Presley Mill and Frank Lane. All lots set back at least 80 feet from Presley Mill, and right-of-way dedications along Presley Mills to be provided for the intersection and any improvements. Now, these are the new elevations that we submitted. You can see a lot of the frontage are 100% brick. Some are 100% brick and stone. Some are hardy material with stone. Some are hardy and shake. And so there are a lot of varying different elevations. So we wanted to put as many as we could on a board so you guys could see a lot of the different variations with the carriage style garage doors and how those are a lot different looking than what we had previously, so that we could really try to show those materials and what was getting, because this was some of the comments that we had. Mm-hmm. And with that, do you want me to turn it over to Abdul, or do you want to go first, Neville? Okay.
I have a quick question. So when you say that it's 2.87, this is one of the things I've been trying to figure out, per acre for houses, but when you're not using 40% of the property, so then doesn't the density of what is proposed go up a lot higher? So
No.
It's not 2.87, it's more like 5.
No, that's not how density works on any property. That would be like if you took Slater Mill, or if you took any of the other neighborhoods and said, hey, we're only going to draw a line around your development area and then calculate density, then that would be basically density on a per lot basis, and that's not how density is calculated. We get on ours, it's such a large site, and we have that area, and we've left alone the low top, and so that's the reason our density is low, because we're leaving so much as preservation land and not pushing the density on that side. But that's the reason.
Okay. Also, as far as city services, have you checked with the city as far as them being able to handle this?
I'll take this.
Okay, Sounds good.
Neville Allison, the managing partner of the Revive Land Group, 3500 Lennox Road. This is Planning Commission 2.0 for most of you guys, so I'm going to try to make it short and sweet. Just to answer your question, Mr. Artley, is we've submitted our plan. It goes through all the various departments on the staff report for feedback on schools, on sewer capacity, on all those different things. I think this may be coming up from the city's potential, and again, I don't know this firsthand, but a labor shortage, being able to get city workers to do things like trash pickup and everything, and that's not a city of Douglasville issue. That is a national issue. And so what I would say is that the budget to be able to hire people is driven from the tax revenues, which is created from more development.
Right.
Further, a staffing issue in 2021 is difficult to relate to a subdivision that'll be built out in 2027. And so, again, the city can't hire the right number of people over the next 6 years. I think we all have bigger problems.
Right.
But with that, just to do a little bit of our presentation,
Okay.
I think there's a couple things I just want to hit on real fast. Again, I hate that we're doing this again. I've kind of run out of new sport coats to wear in front of you guys, so I'm having to recycle those too. This is a slide that shows the residential developments around us. There are 7 residential subdivisions within 1/2 mile of our site at a greater density than what we're proposing. Again, to explain on the density calculation, it'd be like if you had a 37-acre or 35-acre farm and you put 2 homes on it, close together like a family compound. You wouldn't consider that tract 2 units per acre. It would be point whatever that math is, units per acre. That's just the way that it's calculated. So again, I think this is a really important slide. This is a hearing about land use. This isn't a hearing about all the other noise you may hear throughout the process or people's objective opinion. This is a hearing about legal land use. What does the future land use plan for the city of Douglasville call for in this area? What's permitted in this area? What's recommended? What does your professional staff recommend for the site? We have the advantage to kind of look back at what Planning Commission voted on 4 weeks ago on this site. This is the same plan. This is the same plan that was unanimously approved. The only thing that we've done is we held another community meeting, a voluntary community meeting, because some folks said they weren't involved in the process and we wanted them to be. And we gathered some input. People didn't like our elevations. Again, in my opinion, that is an opinion, not about land use. But nonetheless, we wanted to make it as high of a quality of project as possible, which is why we increased the hard materials on the elevations. And a comment came again because we got the glimpse backwards at City Council from City Councilman saying, who's an architect, says, hey guys, it could look really good if you just take some of that brick and wrap it around the sides. And so that's what the 2-foot water table condition is. Again, not a feedback from staff. No one's saying that we have to do it. We're doing it trying to make the site plan better and incorporate feedback from the neighbors. Same thing with the decorative garage doors. You look at the elevations we showed previously, and it's just a big white slab at the front of the house, and those are ugly and cheap. And so what we did was talk to the builder and said, hey, we need to dress these things up a little bit. They committed, absolutely. We'll show it on the elevation, and we'll make it a zoning condition so that it has to be that way. So again, continue to work with the neighbors. There's always going to be opposition. I call it noise or serious concerns, whatever they are. There's always opposition. Zoning is and development is change, and that's scary for folks. We understand that, but it's also not unusual to have support in your project. And I think maybe I said this last time. Again, I feel terrible saying the same things over. But what is unusual for that support to take time out of their personal schedule and come and actually speak in support of the project at the hearings. And I think maybe you're going to hear some of that today. It's also important to note that those folks that are standing up and speaking in support, they didn't just come here, hear our presentation, and decide, hey, I'm going to support this thing. They've been involved in this project for 3+ years. They've stood up here and led the champion of opposition in that, hey, we don't want what previous guys have tried to do. And instead they're getting up here and saying, we do like what this guy's trying to do. So again, I think that's important. Again, working with the neighbors, I'd heard, hey, traffic's a concern. We've done a third-party traffic study. We actually invited our traffic engineer to come and speak if there's questions that, you know, a traffic engineer needs to answer. I'll tell you, the quick summary of it is a traffic engineer ranks intersections, you know, A, B, C, D, E, and F. And all of the existing intersections around us, we're fortunate, are A, Bs, and Cs. You know, that means that the hold time at those intersections, the backup is not such that someone would give it a bad letter grade. You know, you can see that this is a quick chart. I'm gonna actually let Abdul answer this if you guys want to hear about traffic. Otherwise, we can just keep going. Kind of went through all the bits of support. I'd like to save the rest of our time for rebuttal and to answer any questions you guys
Okay.
have.
That sounds, is there any questions from the board?
I have one. Just to confirm, so west-northwest of the property, I was out there this weekend and I saw there's a carve-out, and it says here that it's going to be a senior living development?
Yes, sir. So that's, you know,
Speak to what that is, elevation's gonna
Ryan's
look
done a
like?
great job, but I think in his presentation, he called that property R2. The City of Douglasville map, you know, the staff report came out months ago, and I don't think it had been updated at that time.
Right.
It was rezoned to O and I, and is planned for, let me make sure I get the number right,
Yeah.
114 senior apartments, basically, at a density of 7 units per acre. So again, that's 3 times the density that we're asking for.
What was the density?
It's 114 units on 16 acres for a gross density of 7 units per acre.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Are there any other questions from the board? All right. Thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you.
Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of the project, ask questions, or make other comments? Please come forward, tell us your name and your address.
I'm Dan Holtz. I reside at 9157 Saddlebrook Way in Douglasville, and I'm the current president of the Saddlebrook HOA. 2 of our HOA board members attended both the June and July 2021 information presentations that the developer presented. At the June developer-sponsored meeting, attended by representatives from several HOAs along Presley Mill Corridor and from Brighton Academy, we were impressed by the fact that the initial proposal significantly was below the approximately 400 units in the development proposal that came before the city in 2019. At the July meeting with the proposed developer, along with representatives from other HOAs along the corridor, we were pleased with their revised proposal that brought the number of proposed single-family units down to the 238 number in the current proposal, with the acreage to be developed reduced from the full 83.3 acres down to around 53 acres. The proposed square footages for these single-family homes starting at approximately 1,800 square feet and going to approximately 3,000 plus makes the homes more comparable to most of the current residences along the corridor. Furthermore, the pricing for the proposed units is fairly consistent with the cost of existing homes along the corridor. Yes, the lot sizes are smaller than what is found in Saddlebrook and nearby subdivisions, but we recognize people who are purchasing homes that today, newer homes today, are likely well into the future are not looking for 1/3 to 1/2 acre lots that require considerable yard maintenance. Our HOA board reviewed the initial proposal from June and the revised one from July and found them to be much more acceptable than the previous 2019 proposal. Our HOA board put out information about the project to our residents by posting to our website, in our HOA newsletter, and at our annual meeting back in June, which included the findings of our review of the proposals, the conclusions we came to that this proposal is much more favorable than the previous one and from others that might be brought forward in the future if this proposal is not approved. Our report to our residents that our HOA board supports this development proposal and our encouragement to our residents to support this development and to make their feelings regarding it whether positive or negative, known to this commission and to the members of the mayor and council. We recognize there are concerns by some residents in the corridor about increased traffic along Presley Mill and Timber Ridge. However, the developer has proposed to put in mitigations to address them by installing deceleration and turn lanes at the Frank Lane entrance off Presley Mill and the entrance along Timber Ridge adjacent to the Benton House. Timber Ridge is presently used as a cutoff from Slater Mill to Presley Mill, and there will likely be some increased traffic resulting from this proposed development. However, it will not be as great as the 400-unit development or a business use development that could be proposed at some future time. And also, I just would interject, one of the complaints that I've heard is that people are using Timber Ridge as a cut-through and they're speeding down that road. Well, this development doesn't have anything to do with the speed that people are traveling down the road. That's going to happen whether the development's here or not. We recognize the density of houses in the proposed subdivision is higher than other subdivisions along the corridor, but 238 is a heck of a lot less than 400. The setbacks and the way the layout is proposed to place the larger homes on the outer perimeter of the development and the smaller ones in the center will compensate for appearances to other neighborhoods. I was recently diverted off I-285 to West Paces Ferry Road in Vinings and down a neighborhood street that ended up at South Atlanta Road. At that intersection, there was a subdivision to the right with houses resembling the size and design being suggested for this development. They were very presentable and to some degree similar in appearance to houses in the Chapel Hill subdivision on Heatherwood Court and Avion Park. The owners of the current owners of this property, we believe, are going to sell it probably as soon as they possibly can. The people who object to this proposal need to keep in mind the possible consequences of another proposal with higher densities and multiple uses, not just single-family homes, that could be placed on this property. We believe this proposal is consistent with the surrounding neighborhoods and will add to the property values of the current residences along the corridors. The Saddlebrook HOA recommends this commission recommend to the City Council and Mayor the approval of this proposal for development at Somerset at Timber Ridge. And I thank you for listening and for your service to the community.
Thank you, sir.
How many houses did you say were in Saddlebrook, sir? How many houses in your neighborhood?
124.
Thank you.
When I was a little girl, there was a doll that you pulled the cord, and her name was Caddy Chappie. And I feel like I'm being repetitive with what I'm saying, but I think it's necessary that it be said. And yes, I'm missing a ball game. So it's important that we come to you, and I, Rita Harper, 9044 Bond Street, Douglasville, Georgia, Kensington Gardens, and we have 33 homes. And with the site, if I could see the site again. Thank you. Previously, where they're showing the undeveloped on the backside, the buffer area, my major concern was them coming in there. My dad built houses. He also was a heavy grader. And I knew there was a gas line and a water line that went back through that area. When the new developers came in, they took into consideration everything that the first developer did not take into consideration. So what we are saying now is their willingness to accommodate so many different things that we have asked of them puts it in a different light and a different perspective. The buffering that is done around these homes, unless you actually drive into the area, you're not going to be able to even see the homes. But it is going to be a beautification type situation with what they're planning with the houses. As far as traffic and as far as accessibility with our roads and the management of the city, the schools that accommodate the property here will be New Manchester and schools that are out from the city, as opposed to going into Douglas County to that high school. That's not going to happen. So the traffic is going to be going away from as opposed to in the city area. And we're just thankful for the opportunity to come back and stress tonight how much this means to us. We went through COVID, and it was hard to get to our people to explain what was going on with this situation. We did text and email vigorously. The boards, all of the HOA officers went to the meetings in June and July, and we digested everything that was told to us at that point. So what we are feeling now is what they have brought to us, the developer that is bringing to us now, is totally acceptable. It is up to the city to comply with the bylaws, with the building codes and accessibility to what they are going to be doing in this project. So, I mean, years ago, I was with Planning and Zoning, and I know we did not have a very professional situation. I apologize for having to say that. At this point, we have a professional, educated, accommodating city mayor and council and Planning and Zoning, and I applaud you for that. What's being done for Douglasville, I'm so excited about. But I definitely, in regard to what we're saying for Kensington Gardens, we approve what is being applied to this, as long as the code enforcement and our city takes care of their areas. We don't have a problem. We do not have a problem. And so we're coming to you, thanking you for all that you've done, the consideration that we have had. So we do approve this as proposed, and I thank you.
Thank you. Do we have one more that was going to speak in support, or? Okay. Is there anyone who would like to speak other than in favor of this project? Please come forward, tell us your name and address. Go ahead, come on.
Hello, my name is Sean Bergstrom. My address is 5696 Woodland Drive in Douglasville, Georgia. I come here on behalf of several citizens. I have 2 points I want to make today about this piece of property. And back in 2019, I had the fortunate chance of walking this property a good deal since Mr. Boggs was building his houses over there in Presley Park. And in between the months of May and June, there is an endangered species of flower that actually resides on this property about 30 meters back from the Presley Mill side, right where the setbacks are for that property. In fact, I actually have photos of the items in question, along with the parcels here that notes that the species does exist. There's actually 2 species of endangered plants there. One of them is the pink lady slipper flower, which is an unusual plant. It's actually protected by the 1973 Georgia Wildflower Act. The other one is something called creeping cedar, which is an endangered species as well. What makes the pink lady slipper an endangered species is that there's a particular kind of fungus that this flower actually has to have in order to live. Where it's going to be located at, if I had a laser pointer, I'd show you, about 30 meters from the Presley Mill side on in. The other thing I wanted to point out is towards the center of the property, they got the 42-foot wide lots. The standard garage width is about 20 to 21 feet wide. The standard foyer is about 8 foot wide, and then another 10 or 12 feet from there. So these houses are going to be about 10 or 15 feet apart from each other as well, as far as the density is concerned. The 50-foot wide ones, the standard house is probably about 40 feet deep, give or take. I know this because I've measured enough houses in my life to, yes. But I would like to present to the board a copy of the law concerning the endangered species, along with also a copy from the assessor's report and the photos from the assessor's report, which are public information that anybody can get from an ORR, showing the actual items in question. May I be permitted
Yes.
to
Yes.
approach?
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
These are the items. These are the property record cards. And here's a copy of the state of Georgia's ordinance concerning protection of endangered species with the lady slipper highlighted on it. Usually when there's a case like this, what happens is the species in question usually has to be removed to a new location, and then they have to watch it for several years to make sure that it survives intact. And so that's pretty much my point with that. I don't have any further statements to make.
right.
Does anybody have any further questions for
Do you
me?
guys have any questions, or? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The next speaker?
You want to see these there?
My name is Jeff Murphy. I live at 4275 Wyndham Court in Douglasville, Georgia. I don't live in the city, but I've lived here in Douglas County, and I shop here in the city and been here since November 19th of 1997. We moved from Atlanta, and the major reason that we chose Douglas County and Douglasville was because of density. Warehouses were built on density. I understand this, the way they calculate density for property, but when you consider the density that these houses are being built on the land that is being developed of basically 60% of the 83 acres, it's not as big as you think. And my background, I'm a scientist and an educator, and I've done that for 50 plus years in my life. And I know that when you put organisms on smaller densities, they have a tendency to destroy themselves and destroy the environment that they live in. The thing that I really wanted to point out in my opposition, not so much to the developer, because I think they've done a fine job. I think they have listened to, there's some discrepancy about the public meetings that happened back in June and July and who was actually there, and was that really open to all of the public. The one that we held a week ago, there was much more participation, and they obviously listened to that because they made some changes. I appreciate that. The issue about going from 400 houses down to 238, yeah, okay, they improved. But like a guy that I listen to all the time says, is that the best you can do? I think it can be done better. I understand that growth is inevitable. It's inevitable, it's actually healthy. But the one thing that I think that we have to understand as a county and a city, that in these days and times we need to do smart growth. And we need to be smart about how we approach this. The ideas of what the developer wants to do, that's fine. I don't see why it can't be necessarily done on the current zoning of R2 and R4. The only thing that prevents that is profit margin, return on investment. because there's so much of that property that would cost exorbitantly to develop because of the wetlands and the stream set-offs and things that are required by law that you have to do. There a couple of things that I read through in the review that the planning and zoning did that stuck out to me. One was about the traffic study and the third party that was hired by the developer to do that traffic study. That traffic engineer is paid by the developer. He looks out for the developer's best interest, not necessarily the citizens of Douglasville or Douglas County. The next thing is the statement about is this area going to be meet the safety protocols that fire and police and so forth? And the response is, we got an HOA. We're going to have a mandatory HOA. HOA's responsibility is not for the safety of fire and police and that development. So to me, that's flawed. The other thing is that the statement about how it will affect schools. Well, let's see. Does that mean the schools are provided by the county and the county school system? What has the county school system said this is going to do? What is their input into this? I haven't read any of that.
He reached his time.
Okay, thank you. That was the full 20 minutes for?
No, his 5.
His 5 minutes, okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
So those are the things that I'd really like to see done before you all put your stamp of approval on it. I understand part of your job is to make sure that all the boxes are checked, the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And it'll come down to the city council looking at that and then figuring out, is this really going to be beneficial?
Right.
Is this going to be something, is this actually going to be beneficial, or is it actually going to cost us more money than it's worth? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker.
Good evening, and thank you again for your service. My name is Scott Daniel. I reside at 5825 Wembley Drive, Douglasville, Georgia, in the Kensington subdivision. I'd like to make a few comments, and I'm not being argumentative and I'm not being oppositional. But the comments concerning school numbers and school information about Brighton. I have 2 grandchildren. One is an 8th grader and one is a 3rd grader. The 8th grader is scheduled to attend Douglas County High School under the IB program next year, not New Manchester. The 3rd grader is also on the track to attend the IB program at Douglas County High School as well. So the information that all of our kids at Brighton will be going out to New Manchester is a false statement. That is not true. A charter school child may pick which high school he or she wishes to go to in the long run. So
But the subdivision is technically under New Manchester. You have to apply to go to Douglas County. So they are correct in saying that all schools, all the students at the high school, if that is under New Manchester, they will be bused to New Manchester. They don't automatically go to Douglas County IB program.
But they can choose which school they go to.
Yes, they can.
So they are choosing to go to Douglas County High School.
We don't know that. We're not talking about Brighton Academy. Brighton Academy is different than the actual proposed subdivision, because not all the people that go to Brighton Academy are going to live in the subdivision.
Stopping the clock for me, right?
Well, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. So I would disagree with you on that, but these kids have, charter school children can go to any school their parents decide that they want to go to. It is an application process, but in my opinion, that will be achieved. I also would like to see the impact statements that have been done by fire and police services, as the gentleman spoke of. There are a lot of assumptions throughout the application. There are a lot of projections throughout the application, and I'm glad the traffic engineer is here tonight. Maybe we can hear from him about certain things. I do not recall one of the little rubber strips going across the road on Timber Ridge or Presley Mill at any time during the last 12 months. They may have been there, I could have missed it. So if I missed it, I apologize. There are also assumptions on the density for this subdivision. If you were to take the 40% off on the backside and other areas, I just did a rough calculation. That will be approximately 30 to 35 of the acres. So you can knock down the 83-acre site down to a minus 50-acre site. So if you look at projections and density, we're cramming a lot of what is called cluster homes by the developer into a small area of the site. I would have no problems on this site if the larger lots were included throughout. And let me speak about that. 57 lots are scheduled to go around the perimeter of the property. 156 lots will be on the interior of the property that each have a 5-foot side yard. So every 10 feet, you can potentially have a building. So my question would be, and no one has answered this for me, what is the site density on the interior of the property? If we're looking at 2.3 or 2.83 units per acre, then I would say by the time you take the 40% of the land mass off, you could potentially be increasing your density unit numbers to 8 or 9 units per acre. I don't know, I don't have the math with me to do all that, but I think that's an interesting piece of information for the Planning and Zoning Board to explore and find out. As I said, of 238 homes, 156 of them will be small cluster type homes. That's 66% of this development. If we think that that's not going to have an impact on our police and fire services, our water demand, and other services, we're kidding ourselves. We need to have those numbers before we can go forward. As far as the statement about speeding not being a problem of the developer, I agree. That is a police problem, so we do need to hear from our police chief on what the impact of all of these homes will be. Just a couple of more notes, and I don't want to take up all your time. I appreciate, I sent an email out earlier. I apologize for that publicly. I was on family vacation last week and didn't see some of this information until the last minute, but anyway, I apologize for that. There is a concern of mine also about, well, I've already spoken to the lot size. We spoke about the school impact, and I think I may be clear on that. The paperwork says low density. I don't see where this is going to be a low density project, and I appreciate what these gentlemen have done. But if you look at some of the paperwork that was submitted, it almost appears to me as if this project may have been submitted in another jurisdiction. There are several references, or there's at least one reference to there will be 4 types of homes inside of this subdivision. I've only seen the design for 3 of them. And there is also a reference that you can check with your district commissioner if any changes need to be made. I think the proper reference here would be we would need to talk to a city council member. That leads me to believe that this project may have been submitted elsewhere. Don't know how far it went, if it was approved or disapproved, but here we are back in Douglas County. I would like to briefly address the situation. Could y'all scroll back to the public meetings?
Yeah.
You hit 5 minutes.
Public meetings were allegedly held in June or July. Yes, sir. They were not public meetings. They were private meetings. A public meeting was held last week. There were approximately 50 attendees at the public meeting, whereas the private meetings that put forward all of the information about the certain conditions were attended from 10 to 15 folks. So thank you. Sorry that I went over.
3
Thank
minutes
you, sir.
left. Chairman Artley, 3 minutes is left.
I'm sorry?
We have, opposition has 3 minutes remaining.
All right, opposition has 3 minutes. We have 2 people that wanted to speak. Did you want to come up and speak, Ms. Welch?
I'll try to be very short. My name is Cindy Welch. I reside at 3002 Concord Way, Douglasville, Georgia. And I know there has been some discussion about the density. And I took this, there's 83.3 acres, 37% open space, which means that's approximately 30.8 acres, which they're not going to use, which leaves 52.5 acres. And if you take the 238 units on the 52.5 acres, that's 4.53 units per acre. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in the next 2 minutes?
May I ask a question of the developer?
No. He can't, right?
No, we can't do that.
No. Mr. Neville, Mr. Allison, I mean, do you guys have a response, or did we?
So I'll go down a few and then I'll have Abdul come up. So the first one on the endangered species, we're not aware of anything. If there are some, if this moves forward in permitting, we'll do whatever the city requires to do as far as if we had to relocate or save or whatever we have to do. We're not hiding from any type of endangered species. If there's something out there, it'd actually be cool for the project. And so, for us, anything endangered, anything like that is something we'll comply with during the permitting process. As far as the types of homes, where the fourth type of home came from, there's not one shown up there because it's in their product line, but there was a desire to have ranch homes, a one-level home, and so the same materials and everything would apply, but the ranch home is one. So they do have the ability to have a ranch home on those lots, and master down as well. The public meeting, so from our standpoint, back in June, the public meetings we had, we did exactly what's required of us to do, actually above. We sent out everything we knew how to do for mailers, and it's how we do in every jurisdiction that we go to and how we do it. And so we had the meetings that we thought were all the public meetings, and then we hosted the other one after getting feedback that people felt like we needed to do it a different way, and we literally just posted signs and said, anybody come, type of thing. But even coming out of last week's meetings, a lot of the comments were very similar to what we heard, and then the comments that we got about the elevations, we changed them in the last week. So just to show that we're, trying to do everything we can, and I think the comments made the project even better today. I think, the idea of the brick, the idea of the garages, looking at it there have made it even better. As far as the services, these homes are going to be expensive, and the tax benefit from the permitting from the homes will help city services. And so new development is always helpful for city services and having the funds to be able to do what you guys need to do. The biggest thing, the only thing that's really thrown me off is the density thing. I have not come across this. I'm all over the southeast doing things. This is how density is calculated. If that's not what makes sense, then the PUD doesn't make sense because, I'm just saying, so all projects, you take the acreage, you net out floodland, and then that's your density. And so, it's a large piece of property, so I guess we're getting, maybe it's seen that we're getting a benefit, but look how much open space we're leaving. And so that's just how it is. If someone said that whatever you're leaving alone, whatever you're voluntarily leaving alone in the process, you have to take out of the calculation, it would recalculate everything in Douglasville and everything would go up. Some would go up a ton, some would go up a little. You might have some existing apartments that would be 50 units per acre. I don't know, but I just know that, from a consistent basis, this is how density is calculated, and we have a very, very low site, and actually within the activity center, it's the lowest possible density you can get. So we're just trying to bring a quality project forward and want to make sure all the all the facts are lined up on that. And then with that, Abdul, if you want to run through the traffic. Thank you.
You have 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Abdul. I'm Mayor. I'm a traffic engineer with A&R Engineering, 2160 Kingston Court, Marietta. We've done a detailed traffic impact study for this project, which was submitted to the city staff for the review and inclusion in the packet. The standard process, not only in the city, but elsewhere in Georgia, is for the private developers to engage a private engineer like me to conduct the traffic impact studies. Otherwise, the cities will have to hire their own additional staff to do work for a private developer. That's not the practice anywhere in Georgia. Though I'm responding to a question from one of the speakers that somehow because I am paid by the developer, my conclusions and study may be biased. We are bound by the ethics as a professional engineer licensed in Georgia. And also, we are bound by city's ordinance. City ordinance on how a traffic impact study should be done is very detailed. And we have to follow every step all along. And then the city staff has an opportunity to review what I've done. So I'm very confident everything we have done is according to industry standards. There is no bias anywhere in there. The recommendations in the study were agreed upon by the developer to implement. I think that should more than take care of any impacts from the project. Lastly, there was one comment from a gentleman saying he did not see any tubes on the roads, meaning when data was collected. These days, we're collecting traffic count data at intersections using cameras, and that's probably why those tubes weren't noticed, but we installed cameras on utility poles and things of that sort and count cars. With that, I'll conclude. Be happy to answer any questions on traffic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chairman Artley.
Yes, sir.
There is a concept in planning where there are 2 types of density, the gross density and the net density. Even if you calculate the developer's plan at the net density, it still falls short. I mean, it still falls within the guides of the Regional Activity Center character area.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question, if that's
Yes.
okay. Just for the traffic engineer, I just think in fairness, a lot of talk about traffic. So this study, just refresh me, I was trying to find it real quick. What was the date of the study?
The study was published in
Summer?
July.
Okay. Do you think, in your opinion, does that change anything if it's done in November when school's in session or anything like that? What's your thoughts about that? I just think that's worth talking about.
It's a very good question. So we did account for the fact that the study was done at a time when we had 2 things. There were still significant impacts in traffic due to COVID. We're seeing less and less of it now. But also, at the time we collected data, the school across from us was not in operation. So the study goes through a process of estimating traffic from that school and added it in. And then we also compared the data we collected to pre-COVID data to see how much below the normal levels we were. We found that in the AM peak, for example, we were 37% below. So we raised it up to level up the field to take away any impacts, negative impact from COVID. So this is how traffic studies have been done all around Georgia during the COVID season. So we made all the adjustments to make sure there are no, data that is not reflective of the accurate. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question
Yes.
for the developer.
Yes, ma'am.
Y'all are referencing, and I think I read that you've been in conversation or included the school next to this development, Brighton Academy.
Yes, ma'am.
But that's not the feeder school. So
No.
have y'all, have y'all had conversations about whether or not this development and the feeder schools can actually
Yes, ma'am.
sustain? I think
So-
it would be Mont Carmel and Chestnut Log.
And New Manchester.
And New Manchester.
Yes, ma'am. So the references to Brighton Academy aren't related to our impact on them from students going. It's been revolving around their carpool times and the existing traffic that is created by the school on Timber Ridge, so that we were aware of it and could move our entrance the right distance away from theirs, et cetera. As it relates to the impact on schools, I believe that's part of the staff report where they look at, send the application to the school board, and then, they come back with, no, there's not current overcrowding and this development, they have a formula based on the number of single-family homes to estimate how many students will be going to each school. They apply that formula and then respond back to staff. And I believe that the answer was that there's not a negative impact on schools.
Okay. So I guess I have a question for staff. Was that done? Was that process with the school board and seeing how this development will impact the schools? Was that process done?
It wasn't required.
Pardon?
It's not required by our UDO.
But there is a question on the development of how this, on the application, how this development will impact public facilities.
Yes, that is, but we're talking more like city services, how it impacts city services, things that are owned by the city.
Okay.
The city is responsible for, like garbage, police, and things of that nature.
I mean, I just thought public facilities would include schools,
Okay.
but not.
But
Because it says public
that's a private.
services and.
Not in this case.
Okay.
I mean, that's something we probably will look at in the future in our UDO, but it's not mandated right now.
Okay, because it does
So
specify.
we're only required to analyze things that are mandated.
Okay. So that hasn't been done. Okay.
Is there any other further discussion from the board? All right. Do I have a motion regarding this application?
I make a motion, we approve the application.
Is there a second?
A second.
All right. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. The motion passes and the application is approved. Thank you, sir. Thank you for those that have come. The second case, if I ask if you leave to please keep it down, the noise down. And if you need to speak to somebody, please wait till you get out in the hallway. The second case is item 21-473. It's the same. Let's see here.
449.
449, I'm sorry. 21-449. Hold a public hearing and consider a request for a change in zoning from PUD Planned Unit Development District to, those papers?
Oh, sure.
Yes. To PRD Planned Residential Development for 2.96 acres on Legend Place Road in Land Lot 56, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 6. Application by Scott Johnson, Douglasville Health and Athlete Club.
Thank you.
Staff will now present the item.
The applicant's narrative states that the purpose of this request is to develop a 24-unit townhouse development. In its current form, the applicant's proposal is not consistent with the purpose and intent of the UDO. The subject property is located within a medium-density residential character area, which caps the recommended density at 4 units per acre. The city's UDO state that the intent of the PRD zoning designation is to protect and promote a suitable environment for family life and to encourage flexibility in meeting the needs of families by providing high-density dwellings with a minimum development site of 2 acres. The proposed amendment introduces a density of approximately 8.1 units per acre. The proposed development in its current form does not further the intent of the comprehensive plan. The proposed use is not consistent with the comprehensive plan future land use designation for medium-density residential. While PRD is a recommended land use at this time for the medium-density residential character area, the applicant's proposed density rate of 8.1 units per acre exceeds the maximum recommended allowance of 4 units per acre allowed by the medium-density residential character area. The goal of the medium-density residential character area is to protect and promote a suitable environment for family life, to discourage any use which would generate other than residential traffic on minor streets, to meet the demands of single, 2, 3, and 4 family residences, and to protect the orderly development of land, all in accordance with the land use plan for the city at a density of not more than 4 units per acre. Also, the medium-density residential character area requires that 50% of all units be single-family. The applicant's proposal fails to meet all the requirements of the city's comprehensive land use plan. The rationale behind the requirement of 50% of the units to be single-family residential detached is to ensure compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood. The subject property is surrounded by PUD zoning to the north, south, east, and west. However, the applicant's proposal still does not constitute a spot zoning because PRD is a recommended zoning district for the medium-density residential character area. The applicant's request does reasonably promote the public health, safety, or general welfare. The proposed zoning amendment changed the existing zoning of PUD to a more specific PRD zoning for a townhouse development. Despite the character area recommendation, PRD would be the optimal zone for the subject property because of the issues associated with the site, topo issues and small size and lacking frontage on an arterial. As a result, developing plans according to the medium-density residential character area requirements and PUD standards will be difficult. Also, a commercial component would not be viable, thus rendering the current PUZ zoning classification as less desirable. If approved, staff recommends a density of approximately 4 units per acre with a maximum number of units capped at 12. Heavy landscape buffering above minimum code requirements for portions of subject property abutting the residential neighborhood. A privacy fence erected on the subject property on the side facing the residential neighborhood.
Thank you. Will the applicant come forward and state their name and address for the records? Tell us what you intend to do on this property.
Hello there. My name is Scott Johnson at 5015 Lake Hollow, Douglasville. I'm a 26-year resident of Douglas County. I've been in the same home there in Chapel Hill subdivision for 26 years. My family and I owned the Gold's Gyms here for 35 years in Douglasville and before selling them to One Life Fitness in December of 2019. The 3-acre parcel that we're talking about this evening is separate from the parcel or the land that the Chapel Hill Gold's Gym building was on. We had that small 3-acre parcel we're talking about tonight, which was used for overflow parking, and it's been separate. So that's what we're talking about this evening, just to kind of give you a reference of where that is. Rather than build another commercial building, a public storage building, or another office building, we felt like something that would serve the market better, such as residences, would be a much more palatable project and also be more attractive for the community as well. I have with me tonight a couple of representatives, Val Akins with Liberty Homes. He was one of the ones that came highly recommended when I started looking for a developer for this small project. His company built out one of the last streets in Chapel Hill subdivision, which is the Chapel Cove, a very nice product there. In fact, I went to our homeowner director, the property manager, and asked her who built the homes, and she had said that Liberty was one of the developers, so that's the first person I called, and he expressed an interest in the property, and so we've been going down the direction with the townhomes. So we're here to answer any questions, and when it comes to the actual project, I'll probably allow either our civil engineering representative, Alex, with Southeast Civil to answer questions, or Val with Liberty. But I appreciate your consideration this evening.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
I have a question. So you said this is behind the Gold's Gym property?
Yes, if you
So
know.
there's a church and there's Gold's.
That's right. So if you're going into the cul-de-sac right there, that's called Legend Place.
Okay.
And on the left of the cul-de-sac, we had an overflow parking area. It was gravel parking. It's that whole parcel back there that backs up against the Chapel Hill subdivision right there. It's a very nice wooded parcel there.
So it's behind that parking lot?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's from the road all the way back. So it's not just behind the parking, it's actually from the road all the way back. If you can you see this? Are you able to see what's on the screen?
I think we have that.
Okay. So,
No, I don't see that in our, I don't think.
Oh,
It would actually encompass the existing parking lot that's there.
Could
So
you
you're
please
looking-
come forward, sir?
You're looking for the site plan?
Yeah.
Yes,
It's on the screen. Can you?
right.
you can
It
come-
wasn't in our packet.
Yeah, I just got it, so you can, y'all can come around and look at it. Okay, all right.
how many acres? What is the size of this?
Okay, can you send it to me? Send it to me so I have it for Thursday night. Yeah, I need it for Thursday.
I can, my name's Alex Vaughton with Southeast Civil Group with the planning team. I can shed some light on what we're proposing in this concept plan. It's a 2.96 acre lot, small tract, that we're proposing in this concept plan multifamily townhomes, okay? We're looking at individual parcels for the property. You can see that it has a private drive coming into the lot. And the private drive, we're showing it as owned by the individual parcels. We're showing stormwater management in the south corner. And, you know, definitely going off of the last discussion on the last project that was looking at the density questions, you know, we're aware that, you know, that's a concern for the community. So we had done some things on this particular concept plan to show that we're trying to be accommodating to the surrounding area with, if you can see that on the south property line that abuts the residential properties to the south, there's a crossed hatch on there. That's a buffer that Scott just wanted to show on there. That's not a requirement by code. That's just something that we said, hey, let's put some buffer between the residential parcels and this development. And then also you can see on the eastern corner of the project, there's just greens, that area is available for green space. Also on the north corner, where you have drainage easements and sanitary sewer easements, that will remain green space as well. And then, of course, where the stormwater management facility is would be green space. So, you know, while still trying to maximize a development that makes sense for the developer, which is here tonight, he can speak a little bit more onto the development and what makes sense for him. What we were also trying to do is just consider the city's concerns with making sure that it's buffered well, making sure that there's green space around it, and that it's all kept towards the center of the property. And if y'all are familiar with the area where the Gold's Gym is, it's kind of tucked away in a corner, and it's also a much, much smaller project than what we were just listening to. You know, instead of 83 acres, we're looking at 2.9 acres. Do y'all have any questions about the site plan, the concept plan?
What kind of price range are you looking at on these townhomes?
That would be a question for the developer. He can come up and speak as well.
Yes.
As already been mentioned, my name's Val Akins. I'm with Liberty Communities. And just a brief introduction, we've been a builder in this area. We're both a builder and a developer, so we would be taking on this project to develop the land and then also build the homes. And as was already mentioned by Mr. Johnson, we had the privilege of building out Chapel Cove. It was a small section of that subdivision, around 10 homes, but we built out those homes. You can see the quality of the work that we do if you want to visit there. We've been in business about 4 years. This year, Lord willing, we'll do about 900 houses. We're in South Carolina, we're in Georgia, and we're in Alabama. We have about 26 neighborhoods in Georgia. Our neighborhoods in Georgia range from Villa Rica to maybe Madison on the other side of 20, down as far as Perry, and then down around West Point, Harris Creek area. And so we're a southern Atlanta builder. We also build in Alabama. We also build in South Carolina. We do both multifamily and single family. The multifamily is townhomes only. We don't do apartments and that type of thing. So they're fee simple individual units that's sold to families or individuals, okay? This particular development, we would do townhomes. We would do a single car garage. About half of these units will be basement units. And so theoretically, it'd be a 3-story townhome. You'd have the basement coming up underneath it. The garage would be rear loaded because of that. And then you would have 2 stories above it. The front entry would be the front entry. About half of those would be front entry. Make sure the driveways are plenty long enough to accommodate parking with the garage. We would do a very nice facade that would reflect what's already in the area. And so we would design the homes to reflect the architectural standards that are already in the area with decorative garage doors and those types of things. And although we are asking for what might be considered a variance outside the density requirements, I don't think this style of home is offered for this price point in the area. And so to directly answer your question, we'd probably be starting, depending on where the market is and where product costs go, between now and the time that this would actually come out of the ground. Because this would be coming out of the ground sometime next year by the time it's developed. And you go through the approval process of a preliminary plan and an LDP, and then actually developing the property, and then getting building permits, and et cetera, et cetera. $250 would probably be the lowest price point, maybe even up into the 300s to 400,000, just depending on where the market's at that time. These are larger townhomes. They're 1,800 square feet plus. You know. So I'll just leave it at that and answer any questions, additional questions you might have.
Does anybody else have any other further questions?
I do. What's the buffer to the north, I guess, is there one, in between the current parking lot and this facility, and this location? So where Legend Place, is that 50 feet?
Are you talking about where the storm drainage and the sanitary sewer is on the north part of the property?
No, we're talking the road where you used to go into Gold's Gym and the back of the houses that are on that little road.
Oh, okay. I don't have that dimension on there.
So I guess, if you could, is there a buffer here? Because here's the entrance, right? And then the parking lots are here.
So, yeah, the parking lot's right here. This is Gold's Gym.
Yep.
And yeah, so you'll have setbacks on your buildings, and then you'll have a 10-foot front landscape strip. Does the PRD zoning have a specific setback?
No, it doesn't. It's concept based. It's all what you propose.
Okay. So to elaborate a little bit more on the on this concept plan, the current zoning is PUD, planned unit development, which allows for commercial development. As Ryan was saying, this site and this area, even with the future land use, is geared towards residential. So the site is conducive to a PRD planned residential development. The concern is the density, and just making sure that we're in compliance with that. But with regards to the front area, yeah, we would probably have a 10-foot front landscape strip, or at least a yard area for the front of those coming in from Legend Place.
Okay, thank you.
So, quick question if I can, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So can you guys help us understand the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6 units that are on Legend Place, they'll enter from Legend Place, is that correct? Or it'd be the opposite?
No, they would, everybody would have an entrance from, I know it's very difficult to see, but you can see the, every structure would have an entrance from the private drive.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, and that's where the garage would be, and I believe the front door for those facing Legend Place would be on the uphill side on Legend Place, but the cars would enter from the rear. Yeah.
Sorry, the fronts are going to be the Legend Place on those. They just come in from the back, which is fine.
We are early into this
Yeah.
process. And so
I
we're
get it.
still, this is a concept plan, so we're still doing dirt calculations and dirt balancing calculations. And so that could shift a little bit of where the basements are, where the basements aren't. But that's, yeah. But all the houses would be entered off of Legends Place. We have a private drive that would serve the homes.
Is this project part of Chapel Hills? Is that in their areas or outside of the Chapel Hills?
It's outside. It's not part of that subdivision, if that's what you're asking.
And would not be a part of the existing homeowners management association, the HOA.
Question?
Yes.
Chairman? So were there any neighborhood association meetings or notices given?
A few Saturdays ago, I walked door to door to talk to residences, and I knocked on about 6 doors and talked to 3 people. Had very good conversations with them, lengthy conversations. Not a lot of resistance or concern. 2 people had, I guess, a common theme was in the future about the viability of the stability of the units, and as far as what would happen 5 years down the road if people wanted to rent the properties out or so forth. So we think that would be addressed in the HOA covenants. Mm-hmm.
And how long has this land been vacant?
How long has it been vacant?
Yes.
Well,
Or undeveloped, I should say.
We purchased that property in 2000 or 2001 from Genstar, who owned all of the Chapel Hill property.
Okay,
Is that,
thank you.
No, you're right, it's never been, right, just the parking area.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions from the board?
So I have a question for staff. Was there a recommendation? I saw if approved, but was there, what was the final recommendation?
That was the recommendation.
Pardon?
But, well, staff weren't supposed to make recommendations right now, but the recommendation would be approved with the conditions that were written down.
Okay.
From 8 to 4?
The density.
Density from 8
Yes.
to 4?
Yes.
All right. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this project, ask questions, or make comments? Is there anyone other than in favor that would like to come forward and speak about this project? Please come forward and tell us your name and address.
My name is Cindy Welch. I reside at 3002 Concord Way, Douglasville, Georgia. I only have one comment, and he said single-car garages. Now, I tell you, there is not a home in Chapel Hills that only has one-car garages. And most of the townhouses that you have approved, or the county or the city has approved, have put in 2-car garages. to me, there's no reason, there's nobody that lives there, or very few, that only has one car garage. And I go around to different areas, like I've been in Powder Springs and Marietta, and they're building a lot of townhomes. All of them have 2-car garages. So I would hope that would be a requirement, that they have 2-car garages for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would speak other than in favor of this project? Is there any further discussion? Any further questions from the board?
Did I speak to the single-car garage?
Yes.
Okay. The reason we were proposing this is because one of the things that we do as Liberals, we try to build a very high-quality home for a certain home buyer that might want to live in this area, but they can't afford, but they need a quality home to live in. And you have people that do live in this area, and maybe they can't afford a home that would be as nice as what we're going to develop, and we try to keep our home prices down. And one way of doing that is to provide for singles, like teachers and people in that market space, or just, singles and young married with a single-car garage. And so it just allows for a quality home, but it keeps the price in an area where we could enter the market at $250, but still put a very quality home on the ground. If that's something the council says, well, we don't want that. I mean, that's for y'all to decide, and we would understand that. We do have 2-car garage products, or if you take the position of the density change, well, that's going to change the product we put on the ground anyway. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Go ahead.
So this is for staff. So I was trying to write it all down. So the recommendation or the stipulation, recommendation, whatever you want to call it, was 4 units per acre and a total of 12 units.
Yes, sir. That's the recommendation.
And this 24, 25 units are on this rascal?
24.
Pretty much? Okay. That's what I thought.
All right. Do I have a motion regarding this application? Do we need to see more on it, or more as far
It's
as,
just not enough information.
more as far as what the townhomes are going to look at, like, or? Can we make a motion to table it? To get more information, or?
Sure can.
Defer.
Can.
Huh?
Defer.
Defer?
Yeah.
So I wanted to make a quick comment, or at least with staff's, like, this vote is not on the product, this vote is on the land use. So just make sure everybody's aware of that.
That's true.
Right, okay.
I wish it were on the product.
Not this time.
Then do I have a motion regarding this application? Is the chair allowed to make a motion? Or no?
I don't think the chair can the chair can the chair make a motion? I don't.
If I ask for a motion, am I allowed to make the motion?
No, I don't think you can make a motion.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve with the recommendations from staff.
Okay. Is there a second?
I will second that.
All right. So the motion is to approve with the recommendations from the staff with 12 units on the property. And we can do that, right, Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
All right.
It's just a recommendation.
All right. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I will say aye there. The motion passes and the application is approved with conditions. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are there any staff?
Okay,
Are
okay.
there any staff reports?
No.
Nope. All right, I say this, I call this meeting to adjourn this meeting.